I got a fuel tank I'm mounting on this truck. Got some long all thread. I'll get the right direction. I'm going to be mounting a rig on this truck, and I had to put this new fuel tank on, but there's no sending unit. So I do this often on tanks. I weld a fitting in here, put a little ball valve so you can open that one. And then there's just a clear tube coming up to the top, open that one. That's my fuel gauge. Stupid simple, wherever the fuel level becomes in there. And in case you get snagged on a tree or stump or something, that's what the ball valves are for. This one here is a little vulnerable, but it's just an 1/8" fitting, could be plugged with a stick if you had to. But this is nice because we can see how much fuel we have operating the rig because we're not in the cab. So some things happen by accident. Found these short pieces of channel iron. It was going to go like that. I thought, boy, that looks like a trip hazard. So I just happened to hold it there like that. I got these bent all threads. I don't see why that wouldn't work. Poke that down through there. Put a nut on the bottom, little plate on the top. And we'll see how it turns out. This is a return line up here. I welded in a 3/8 collar and then put some JICs on it. This is a suction line. I welded a regular JIC nipple right into the tank, so that JICL comes right on it. And then we put in a ball valve and a plug so we can drain some water and shitties out of it. All in all, this turned out pretty good. I got some all thread tied back to some holes that were already in the frame. Get the light here. Then I just welded an angle iron here. You saw me put the nuts on it. These turned out pretty good. Put the dog leg on there. Just some all thread, got a 3/8 heavy nut on the bottom. Welded this channel on the side. This is actually a 1967 fuel tank out of a Ford. It's going on a Ford. We put these rectangular washers I built on the top. It's all tied in pretty good. We got some nylon straps on top of the supports Those support arms are getting to be a little rusty. I'm eventually going to have to rebuild those, but I needed this thing up and running so we can get it moved in and out of the shop. Fuel gauge. Fuel gauge is working nicely. This is kind of a neat cap that they had in 1967 on Fords. I've got a few of them. They're brass, but these little holes are filled with lead. So if your gas tank, this is diesel now, but if it was a gas tank and it caught fire, it would melt that lead out and instantly vent the tank. Boy, this old technology is wonderful. Anyway, there's a hole in here that there was a screw and it held a keeper to keep you from losing your lid. I need to come up with a way to vent this tank, so I think I'm going to utilize this hole. I got one of these little grease cups, or oil cup I should say, that you trying to hold my phone here, that you fill up the machine with oil. It's a little spring-loaded dust cover. I'm going to use that. So, using my nifty thread sizing rosary beads, according to this, I can't speak today, that is a 1032. Okay, according to my chart, to tap a 1032 hole, we need a number 21 bit right there. So we'll do what drillers do and ream that hole out and tap it. I have here a 1032 and my little weak cordless drill. Don't really recommend it unless you're very careful. I'm using some tap coolant. That seems to work really well for tapping. So we'll start in here. It's brass, so it's going to tap easy, and I don't have to go that deep. That little thing is not very deep at all. Probably deep enough already, but I'm going to chase it once here. Nice thing about hard taps is if you don't chuck them up too tight in the drill, they slip a little bit in the chuck before they break. I sure have broken my fair share doing it that way, and machinists out there are going to highly recommend you don't do that. And it screws in pretty nicely. I can get my big gorilla mitts here to get it just like that. Now this will seal a little bit too much. Here's a trick for you. A vise and a vise. Great for holding really small, tiny projects. And another little trick, golf ball with a hole drilled in it. Makes a really nice file handle. So I'm just using this triangular file, and I'm going to file some, I don't know what you call it, grooves in the top of this face. just enough to let a little air in. And you can see here that it's just got a little bit of breather room, and that spring-loaded cap will, I would say, keep most of the rain out. Probably the mud daubers will get it eventually. Well, I sure like American. I knew that was 5/16 right out of the gate. It's old enough I knew it was American. Straight thread. The way it's going to lock in there is it's just going to shoulder up nice. There, nice and snug. It's my fuel cap with the breather. It's not in the way. It's simple. In case you didn't know, this channel is about how to do things when you don't have any other ways or means or materials on hand. Everything I did here was 100% what I had on hand, even down to this clear tubing. It was some unused oxygen tubing out of an ambulance. I tested it in the diesel fuel for 48 hours to see if it didn't react. But time will tell. Easy enough to change if it does. Just give you an idea what kind of thought went into that breather. Talking about doing things because you have no other ways or means or materials. You know, a lot of the stuff I have, I salvaged. And a lot of the stuff my dad had salvaged before me and kept. I always said it's truly not junk until one of us throws it out. But I'll tell you how this happened. I was trying to figure out a good way to make a breather in that cap. And I found a breather, but it was 1/4 inch. It was way too big. I knew mud and water would get in there. So I did a lot of thinking and running around, and I thought, well, maybe I could put a brake bleeder in there, drill out that brake bleeder and tap that in there, and put a piece of 1/4 inch copper tubing over the end and crimp it and solder one end. Well, that's quite a lot of work. Then I got to thinking, geez, I could do the same thing with a grease fitting. It would have an American thread, and I wouldn't need such a big hole to drill and tap. So I was digging around in my grease fitting box, and of course we had salvaged some of those little grease cup caps. I'm not really sure what you call them, off an old machine somewhere. We thought they were pretty neat, or maybe they came in a bucket from a bunch of stuff we got on an auction. But took quite a bit of thought, but in the time I did that, I was a heck of a lot quicker than if I'd gone down to the hardware store and bought some sort of Chinese piece of crap that probably wouldn't have worked or fit well anyway, and I'd have wasted an hour and a half of my time and come home and been disgusted and built something anyway. But I sure hope you enjoy this. We're going to try to do more, especially more in the field with our rigs and our work. So have a good night.